There's another new problem for the Republican Party, which is that college-educated voters are abandoning the party quite quickly to a degree that I didn't even realize. Check out this report from MSNBC about recent polling.
Welcome back. Data download time. We've talked a lot here about how the two political parties are changing, and now there are new warning signs for the Republicans in that realignment. In the first quarter of this year, Gallup found that Democrats have a 9-point edge in party identification. It's the largest gap Gallup's recorded in a decade. And now we've seen this before, and it hasn't always stuck. That said, data from the Pew Research Center shows that the shift of college-educated voters from red to blue could indeed have long-term consequences. And here's why. At the beginning of this century, Republicans held an 11-point edge among this group of voters. By the time Barack Obama was president, the figures had flipped and had become a narrow 4-point edge for the Democrats. Then along came President Trump, and as he was winding down, Democrats had a whopping 13-point lead among this group of voters. Now, here's why this matters. Because Republicans have long counted on the high turnout rates of college-educated suburban voters, especially during midterm and special elections. And yet, in 2018, 64% of people with a bachelor's degree went to the polls. And watch this. That compares with 52% of those with just some college or an associate's degree. It's 39% among those high school or less. And it's only 20% for those without a high school diploma. All of this could spell trouble for Republicans if they are losing the most reliable voters to Democrats. We actually may have seen that already in Georgia and in a statewide election in Wisconsin.
When more and more people are getting college degrees, how do you win when you have a 13-point deficit among the college-educated voters? Or to put it another way, college-educated people are more likely to vote, and increasingly more people are going to college, and increasingly those people are going to vote for Democrats. That's a recipe for disaster for the Republican Party. Now, a common sense reaction, if you're the Republican Party, would be, well, let's figure out why college-educated voters are abandoning us, and let's fix that issue. But that's not the approach of the Republican Party. The Republican approach instead has been, let's trash going to college as liberal nonsense, so maybe fewer people will go. And meanwhile, let's make it harder to vote in areas we've identified as being more Democratic leaning. And that strategy, it can work in theory, at least in the short run. It can also fail. Arguably, it failed in 2020 in places like Georgia. But I don't see how the strategy works long term. This is a stunning trend. And as Chuck Todd pointed out in that segment, the Republican Party used to lead among college-educated voters. Then in the Obama era, Obama was like +4 among college-educated voters. Now Democrats are +13. Some of you may be surprised that college-educated voters ever voted for Republicans, but remember that there was a time when relatively fewer people went to college. Those that did made more money. Therefore, they paid more in taxes, and arguably they would develop some animosity to the party of higher taxes, and they shifted to the right. Since then, though, the Republican Party, although it is anti-tax, has become also a lot of other crazy things: anti-science, anti-life, anti-common sense, and the tax thing no longer seems to be the controlling factor. You can put it a different way also. The Republican Party has gone so far off the deep end that they are even starting to lose the people who want low taxes. And since Ronald Reagan, as I've told you many times, the Republican Party has been creating this environment in which someone like Trump can win. They've done it relatively successfully, winning a bunch of elections. But when Trump actually came in, he blew everything up and maybe it was too far. They now have a policy where they have a party where policy essentially doesn't matter. It's just rhetoric. It's owning the libs. It's, arguing that you want to bring guns onto the House floor. And as a result, they lost the House in 2018. They lost the Senate in 2020. They lost the White House in 2020. So they are left with almost nothing. That is the vacuum into which Fox and Tucker and Newsmax and these types, Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they can fill the void with their outrageous rhetoric, which further radicalizes the party, but it's not dealing with policy. Can they turn it around? Sure, they can. I mean, I've looked at deeper and more detailed opinion surveys trying to figure out what is it that would bring college-educated voters back to the Republican Party. If the country became more religious, would that do it? Unclear. And remember that the country is becoming less religious. On issues, the country is also moving left. Abortion being legal in most cases has the biggest support it's had since Roe v. Wade. I mentioned earlier, gay marriage being legal has more support today than at any day in American history. Inequality being too high and being bad for the country is something that more people today agree with than at any time in the past. So on the religiosity thing, things aren't turning back to the right. On the issues, things aren't turning to the right. This is why the Republican Party has adopted a strategy of voter suppression, trying to steal elections rather than to win them. And when you see this polling, it does make sense. It does make, if you realize we can't seem to win on issues, the issues we used to win on are increasingly going against us. In that sense, you would try to just win in other ways, and that's exactly what they're doing. We'll take a quick break. We have much more after this. Find me. This is very exciting. I've not been this excited about a new platform in a long time. Find me on BitClout, where we have Pakman coin. I know it sounds nuts, but it's very interesting. Go to davidpakman.com/BitClout. That's BITCLOUT. At minimum, follow me there. We're going to have some very interesting things there. But if you're in that space, I think you'll find the platform really interesting. Quick break, right back after this.